Okay, hello, I am Kitisak Manarasombat. So today I would like to present my article, which is examining EFL learners' English speaking anxiety, the case of formal education setting and total English learning environment in the annual National Conference of Liberal Arts by Thammasat University, holding on Thursday, 23rd of 2020. So let me share the screen. Um, All right, so I'd like to start with my introduction first. So for the introduction, actually for this research, it was conducted based on the studies in the previous before. So according to the previous research, they mainly focused on students' perspective toward LSA. Moreover, the results were generated from so-called formal education setting only. And mostly the results were also from the students' perspective only. So therefore, in this study, um, I aim to study both students and teachers' perspective on English language speaking anxiety from formal education setting and total English learning environment to see the differences in terms of participants' perspective and settings. All right, so I'd like to move to research questions and theoretical framework. So in this study, there are two research questions. The first one is what are the level of English language speaking anxiety of EFL learners in a formal education setting and a total English learning environment. And the second one is what are the influential factors and remedies of English language speaking anxiety from perspective of EFL learners, native English teachers, and non-native English teachers in a formal education setting and a total English learning environment. So basically, the first question would be related to the levels of ELSA, and the second one will be related to the factors and remedies of ELSA from the perspective of both students and teachers from both settings. And a theoretical framework in this study, I applied the model of language anxiety, which was developed by Horwitz in 1986. In this model, it comprised of three things. The first one is communication apprehension. The second one is taste anxiety. And the third one is fear of negative evaluation. All right. So the next one, I would like to move to the research methodology. So for the first one is the participants in this study. There were 80 EFL learners from both formal education setting and total English learning environment. And the age is around 20 to 23 years old. And for all participants, they were selected regardless of the gender and educational background. And second one, there were 10 teachers from formal education setting and total English learning environment. So 5 participants from each setting. Yes, and for actually for teacher participant, they were divided by two types of teacher. The first one was native English speakers, and the second one was Thai native speakers. So for the numbers of native English speakers, there were 6 participants, so it would be 3 participants from each setting. And there were 4 participants, so 2 participants from each setting. Yeah. So the next one is the instrument in this study. So mainly I employ 3 instruments. The first one is demographic survey. The second one is English language classroom anxiety scale, which was developed by Horwitz 1986. And the third one is semi-structured interview. So for the demographic survey, this tool was administered to all participants. And for this survey, it was implemented based on student participants and teacher participants. So the items that were targeted will be different. And for English language classroom anxiety scale, in short, ELCAS. For ELCAS, this like 5 Likert scale questionnaire, in this tool, it was used to measure the levels of ELSA of the students. And also at the same time, open-ended questions were also integrated in this tool to get more opinions about the factors and remedies of ELSA. And the third one is semi-structured interview, as I informed you before. In this tool was used to obtain more insightful data from student participants and teacher participants. All right. And for the data collection, It will be started by demographic survey first, and then the second one was English language classroom anxiety scale, and the third one was semi-structured interview. So for demographic survey, as I informed you before, this tool was given to all participants, but for ELCAS, it was given to only student participant, but for semi-structured interview, it was also conducted to both student participant and teacher participants. And to analyze the data, the first one, how to measure the levels of ELSA of the students. So the scores were classified as high, medium, and low. And the second one is how to identify which factor in ELCAS has the highest impact on speaking anxiety. So the scores of the items were also classified as high, average, and low. And the last one is how to analyze the data from open-ended questions and semi-structured interview. So in this one, content analysis was applied. And for this one, for content analysis, this is like the process to decode and break down text into quantifiable categories. Yeah. And for all quantitative results, they were calculated by using SPSS program as well to see the differences. I mean, to see whether there are any significant differences or not. Okay, all right. So the next one, I'd like to move to the findings of this study. The first one is related to the levels of English language speaking anxiety. And these are the results from the questionnaire, which is ELCAS. As you can see from the table, the student participants in these two groups review moderate level of English language speaking anxiety, even though the classroom is different. However, the findings indicated that indicated significant difference between FE group and TEL group. Yeah, so it means that even though these two groups have moderate level of English language speaking anxiety, formal education setting students tend to be more anxious than total English learning environment students. Yes. And then the next finding is related to ELSA factors, which is from students' perspective. So this one is the result from factors in ELCAS. In the questionnaire, 3 factors were also targeted in the questionnaire. They are communicative apprehension, test anxiety, and fear of negative evaluation. So from the result, student participants in FE reported fear of negative evaluation having the highest negative impact on the students' level of anxiety, followed by the taste of anxiety and communication apprehension. And at the same time, fear of negative evaluation also has the greatest impact on the level of anxiety in total English learning environment, followed by test anxiety and communicative apprehension as well. Yeah, so from this result, we can see that communicative apprehension has the most impact on ELSA of the students from both settings. The next finding is the factor from open-ended questions and from student perspective. As you can see here, the result revealed that fear of producing mistakes, peer pressure, and culture and society were emphasized by student participants from both settings, while fear of negative evaluation, insufficient proficiency, and language alternation and lack of authentic practice were outstandingly reported in FE. In TEL, in total English learning environment, shyness and lack of confidence and teacher-related factors were indicated as predominant causes of speaking anxiety. From these results, it was quite clear that in formal education setting, one of the main factors that can cause ELSA was the lack of authentic practice in formal education setting. While in total English learning environment, this factor was not starkly found. Right. And then the next finding is the factor as well, but the result from semi-structured interview from students' perspective. So as you can see here, the 5 factors as reviewed in this table were targeted in the interview, and 4 factors, which are fear of producing mistakes, types of tasks and activities, personalities of teachers, and immediate correction, are reported as equally influential ESA factors. However, more students in FE indicated being evaluated and taking exam increased stress and anxiety. So this factor, on the other hand, um, this factor, the academic evaluation was not prominently reported in TEL group because this setting is a private institution. So in this case, we can interpret that in total English learning environment, since it's a private institution, academic evaluation is not that strict compared to formal education setting. The next one is the factor as well, but this time it will be from teacher's perspective. And the first one is related to learners' individual factors. According to the result, teacher participants from both settings agreeably reported that fear of negative evaluation and fear of producing mistakes could have negative impacts on EISS of students. However, more responses in TEL indicated that fear of producing mistakes could increase stress and anxiety in students. On the other hand, fear of losing face and insufficient proficiency were only expressed in the teachers from TEL. Yes. The next one is also the factors, but these factors were related to environmental and educational factors from teachers' perspective. So regarding to environmental and educational factors, the first one, personalities of teachers, teaching styles, and appearance and outfits were reported by both settings as influential EISA factors. However, speaking in front activities was emerged in FE mainly because these types of activities were employed to measure students' proficiency as common practices in this setting. So this factor was considered to be one of the main EISA factor of the student as well. Okay. And then the next one is related to the remedies from student perspective. So according to the result, it shows that the responses from open-ended questions and semi-structured interview suggest 7 key remedies to speaking anxiety according to the students. As shown in this table, English proficiency improvement was reported as the most effective by both groups. And also at the same time, communication-based activities were also reported equally to reduce ELSA. So in this case, English proficiency improvement was considered to be very, very effective to reduce students' ELSA. And at the same time, communication-based activity was also considered to be very effective as well. However, in FE setting, attitudes on learning English, grammar negligence, and teacher-related remedies were considered to be effective. And on the other hand, being relaxed and supportive environment were mostly found in their counterpart. And the next one is the remedies from teacher viewpoint. So the first one is related to teacher-related remedies. So in this one, setting student new mindset and providing constructive criticism were reflected by both groups of participants as very important remedies. So however, compared to TEL, more teachers in FE reported personalities of teachers as influential remedy. On the other hand, teachers in TEL reported building students' confidence as important remedy. And the next one is related to anxiety reducing activity. So in this case, you might see that there are 4 activities that were reported by teachers: ice-breaking activity, discussion, group conversation, and pair conversation. So the teachers from each setting might prefer to use group conversation rather than pair conversation, and their counterpart might prefer pair conversation rather than group conversation or discussion, something like that. So it depends on each setting. All right. The next one is related to student-related remedies. So for student-related remedies, actually teachers' responses were also similar to students' responses as well. English proficiency improvement was considered to be one of the most effective ELSA remedy. And the second one was the attitudes on English learning, especially when students make mistakes. So they should think that they can learn from making mistakes, something like that. Yes. All right, so I would like to move to the conclusion and discussion of this study. So the first one is the levels of English language speaking anxiety. So actually, students have a moderate level of English language speaking anxiety. However, these two groups of students have, even though they have the same level of ELSA, but in FE and TE, in FE students, they tend to be more anxious than TEL students. And according to the results that were run by SPSS, there was significant difference as well between these two settings. And the next one is English language speaking anxiety factors. In this study, it emphasized the existing factors, and there are 5 major findings that are aligned with previous studies. There are fear of producing mistakes, fear of negative evaluation, insufficient proficiency, types of tasks and activities, and personalities of teachers. So teachers should be aware of these 5 major findings and try to find solutions for these findings. And the next one is new factors that were found in this study. So there were 4 new findings in this study. They are language alternation, culture and society, fear of losing face, and appearance and outfits. So for these 4 new findings, teachers and other stakeholders should also take into account and find new solutions for these new factors as well, especially for students who may study 2 or 3 languages at the same time, so they may have some confusion when they have to alternate between English to the other language. And so at the same time, appearance and outfits is considered to be one of the main factors of ELSA. And the next one is related to the remedies. So in this study, it also emphasized the existing remedy as well that were found in the previous result, in the previous study, I mean. So they are in English proficiency improvement, learners' attitudes on English learning, teacher-related remedies, and communication-based activities. And it also yield the new findings, the new remedies. They are resetting students' mindsets, ice-breaking activities, and supportive environment. So from these results, there are existing remedies and new remedies. So for teachers and other stakeholders, they should take into account about these remedies and try to apply some of these strategies in their own settings, in their own classrooms, so that they can help reducing students' students' ELSA. All right. So in the summary, I think that teachers and other stakeholders must be aware of both the level of learners' anxiety and the possible factors. And it's also helpful to measure the level of anxiety, analyze and identify the causes of anxiety in order to generate the low anxiety classroom atmosphere. So from this study, I would like the readers and other stakeholders, when they got to read this article, they can apply, they can use some strategies from this study to be used in their own setting to reduce their students' speaking anxiety as well. So from this study, I would like to emphasize again that it will be very weak to compare which classroom setting is better. So therefore, like, one of the most important points of this study is how to adapt and apply good points from the counterpart to achieve objectives of the curriculum and build speaking confidence of EFL students, so that in the future, teachers can build good students and they can be good workers in the future. All right. So that's all for me for my presentation. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and yes, and feel free to suggest for further research. Yes, so thank you so much.